Welcome Bruce Lee Mani, Shikha, Nambiar, Anjum, Hasan, Sriram, Aravamudan and Vasanthi, Hariprakash. Oh, sorry. I didn't know that was a plan.
I have to give a full grand introduction to each of my speakers. Oh, you're already here? Yeah. आपने कुछ नहीं देखा. हाँ, so the first of the speakers, let's call in the author of the novels The Cosmopolitans, Neti Neti and Lunatic in My Head. She has a short story collection, Difficult Pleasures in Street of the Hill, a book of, we used to say poems, but apparently now you have to say poems. So, poems. Her books have been nominated for various awards, including the DSC Prize for South Asian Literature, the Hindu Best Fiction Award, and the Crossword Fiction Award. Her new collection of stories, A Day in the Life, is coming up from Penguin, India. Let's give nice chapale to Anjum Hasan. Well, as Anjum takes a seat, let me call the guy whose name, if you have not heard till now, you will want to know why is your name like this. But that's really his real name. It's like that only. And as founding member and front man of what is arguably, I don't know why it said arguably, it is without any argument, India's most respected rock band, Takadimi, you can call it, Thermal in the Quarter, Bruce Lee Mani. If this chapale is anything to go by, you know of his fan club in house. And how many people have you got by the truckloads?
Absolutely none.
Bruce is one guy who will never have to do that. A lot of us fans of his music and him. Bruce has of course earned a lot of acclaim at home and abroad. Primarily self-taught, his style has been called instantly recognizable by none other than Rolling Stone magazine and has served as an inspiration for many up-and-coming musicians. The primary lyricist, he's also the songwriter for his band. His work has led to the band being lauded as the most prolific band in Indian rock. What I personally like about Bruce and Gebala Ishta is the fact that he's a committed educator. He's also the co-founder of The Academy. It's Bangalore's premier space to learn, create, record and play music. After which, we shall now again go to the ladies to call. And she is an illustrator, an artist across many disciplines. And after graduating from Srishti Institute of Art, Design and Technology, she eventually began Sunny Sky Starry Eyes, which started as a humble attempt to keep snail mail alive. Just how charming is that? For that only we can have chapale and call Shikha Nambiar. She has actually developed into a range of illustrated products. She's passionate about hand lettering, as we learned, and also tries a lot of medium in her various artistic ventures. And her work is inspired by her travels, music and visual experiences and social exchanges. The Galata boy of this thing has to, of course, be summoned at this point of time. If you, like me, if you have watched his Facebook live where he's strumming a guitar like that and all, or heard what the accents of Bangalore, then that's the guy I'm talking about. Engineer, writer, musician, entrepreneur, who has over 20 years of work experience. My goodness, very wise, very old. Sriram, Aravamudan, please. Regular columnist, you've read him, feature writer for print and online publications. His blog, Bengaluru Banter, is a light-hearted take on life in the city, and beyond that has won 3 Best Blog Awards from Explosities 080 magazine. It includes cartoons, voice and music snippets. Just how much talent can somebody put in one person? And then I think the person to blame for all this talent also happens to be in the audience, Geeta Aravamudan. Yeah, we should hear from mommies. Fine journalist as well. Has also successfully established 2 startups, which means not only is he talented, he also knows to make money. My Sunny Balcony and The Bake Way, and has been running it for the last 8 years. Too much talent on the panel. On that note, I would do the thing which is the easiest and the best for a moderator to do, which is to let all these talents to start doing the talking. I'm only taking you all into confidence. I'm splitting this into 3 parts. The first of which I'm calling deeply personal. Tumba personal stories we are going to ask these fellows, and I'm going to start with if I land up embarrassing somebody, I'm sorry, that comes with the territory of being a moderator. It's also the perk, and I would like each one of you to give us 2 minutes of where you were born. First question you have to answer. Born where, raised where? When you either came to Bangalore, then what was it like? I mean, just go back on a flashback and just tell us which year, what was Bangalore like at that time? So we'll hopefully time them each. If I could say 3 minutes each, Anjum, I would start with you.
I almost don't have a voice.
IIHS gives you one.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Thanks, Vasanthi. Yeah, I came to Bangalore almost 20 years ago. It'll be 20 years this August. So 1998. And I spent the first few years trying not to be in Bangalore, which means missing Shillong very much, which is where I was born and where I grew up. So I was not actually here. I was working here and living here. But my mental scape, my memories, my nostalgia, my longing, my emotion was all invested in Shillong. And as a result, my first book of fiction, Lunatic in My Head, is set in Shillong, even though I wrote it when I was living here. My second book of fiction, 1880, is very much about Bangalore. And it's about Bangalore as a very new place. It's about a Bangalore to which a young person moves and finds a kind of freedom that is missing in the small town that she came from. It is not strictly speaking an autobiographical book, but there are elements of my own story in it. And I was fascinated by the liberty a young person can experience in a city like Bangalore without actually dipping their toes in the history or in any sense of rootedness in the city. You can spend your life in an enclave of high-rises, cafes, bars, at that time internet parlors, late-night parties, the English language almost exclusively, and imagine that is the city. And yes, that is the city, because a city is composed of many cities. So that was the Bangalore that I was exploring in that novel. But not straightforwardly just that, because my character also, while she enjoys this, feels a very strong sense of alienation from it. And at the heart of this glittering Bangalore is a very dramatic, in some ways, and very unexpected crime. So part of the story revolves around that crime, and there's also longing for the place that she has left behind, which is also changing and trying to become something like Bangalore.
So I'm just going to interrupt you a bit, because we're going to get to your work part in a bit, but this is so, like I said, deeply personal. It doesn't have to be the character, it has to be you. So
I tend to forget that I'm not I tend to forget that I'm not my characters or my characters are not me. Actually, I'm not important or interesting. It's more the books, I think, because I just came to Bangalore, I was working here and I was writing. That's what I've done for the last 20 years. Mostly sat at a desk. But now, since the last 6 years, I also live part of the time in Madikeri in Coorg. So to answer the question of what is my relationship to the city.
Are you growing coffee or something?
No, I'm not growing coffee. I'm just writing. I'm doing the same thing that I have done in Bangalore all these years. It's just a way of getting away from the city, I think, because in some ways it's become far too energetic for me, I think. There's too many interesting things going on. And there's too much.
What a problem to have, I tell you.
There's too much life, I think, in this city. And for someone like me, I think I'm a slow person, so it really helps me to withdraw and process the life that I've lived here in a place that is not Bangalore.
Sure.
So yeah,
Nice.
so that's what I'm doing now. And yeah, the best thing is just read my books.
Yeah. This, no plugging of books, nothing at all. It's just a gentle persuasion.
Just fact.
It is a fact, sure, fair enough. Bruce, next to you.
Do I need a mic? You can hear me, right? You can hear me. Everybody can hear me? Oh, so I need the mic. Okay. Spend my life in front of these things, so I thought I could, do away with one for a change. Yes, so as Vasanthi has been saying, I have a really funny name, and so anything deeply personal about who I am and where I come from should involve some history about the kind of person who gave me that name. So, and this is interesting. So I was born in Bangalore. I was born at the Gunashila nursing home somewhere in Jayanagar, and I went to, yeah, too much information. Yeah, and what, madam? Yeah. Okay. So I grew up at least for the first 6 years in Jayanagar on Diagonal Road, very close to City Centre Library. But before we get to where I went to school and everything else, I must tell you about my parents. So my name, as you've seen, is Bruce Lee Money. It's not a stage name. It's in my birth certificate. It's in my yeah, it's in my passport, and it's one of the reasons why the rest of the band will always put me first at immigration lines every time we travel abroad, because you know how immigration guys are, like guys sitting there like that, just waiting to find someone whom he can put away forever or something. But as soon as I walk up to the gate, he looks at my passport. We've got a Bruce Lee, and after that everything is just plain sailing, because everyone's laughing and rolling around saying your name is actually Bruce Lee, So yeah, and this is the reaction I get at immigration and everywhere else. But yes, coming to my parents. So my father, who gave me this name, was a very unusual kind of tambram. Yeah, we're tambrams, and so this is the guy who in 1970 decided that they grew up in Bombay. Decided that in Matunga, of course, and decided that Bombay was becoming way too busy, and so had to come down to Bangalore. And how they came down to Bangalore was that they sold their furniture and everything else, and mom and dad got onto a Java motorcycle and drove all the way down here, right? So that's how they got to Bangalore in 1970. And for the next 7 years till I got born, my mom and dad, who are hardcore South Indian tambrams, did absolutely nothing. They didn't have jobs, they didn't earn an income, so dad had some strategic investments in a few places. So I think they had the princely sum of some 354 rupees that would come to them every month, and they subsisted on that for 7 years. And they had a schedule. So every morning they'd wake up, and they had a friend with a farm who had a big well. So they'd go and swim in that well. And of course, as soon as they got here, they sold the bike and got to bicycles, so no gas expense. And so every day they had this swim in the morning. Then they go to Lal Bagh with a book, sit there for most of the day. Every week they'd go to HMV house and buy one LP, only after listening to all the songs and making sure that they were all good. And they traveled the entire country, okay, on buses, trains, always traveling at night, so they don't have to book a hotel. And my mom says it was the happiest time of her life, and because it was like a 7-year honeymoon. So my dad only got a job after I got born, because another mouth to feed and so on. And through the next till 93, when he passed away, I always had a tough time in school telling people what my dad did, because I had no idea. For a short time, he was a salesman in some foundry. Then he was helping someone write something. He liked to do things just his own way. For about 6 years, he drove a van for kids. And even now, when I run into people from old Bangalore, they remember a blue van, which is among the first van services for schools in the city. So he was an exceedingly strange cat, and thanks to his sort of influence in my life, he always would keep saying, "You've got to do what you love. You've got to you shouldn't be tied down with what other people tell you or whatever." And he was like that all his life. So when he died in 93, I wanted to be a pilot, by the way. I had no inkling whatsoever to be a musician. From the age of 6, I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to join the NDA and fly MiG-21s. I'm still crazy about aircraft. When I'm flying around wherever, I still know what engine is on that bloody plane. So I'm still pretty mad about flying. But when he passed away, the whole flying thing wouldn't happen, because there was the only son. And so I ended up, playing guitar in college and joining the first band. And after I finished my science in 11th and 12th, I had no aspirations, no abilities for either engineering or medicine or whatever. And so I did journalism. So I studied journalism, psychology, and literature. Did a master's in communication as well, through which I was playing with the band and sort of finding my footing again. And that's it. That's 10 years between 2000 and 2010. I was in corporate life kind of thing, working all over the place, still playing with the band. And for the last 8 years, I've been a full-time musician. I play with Thermal and a Quarter. We run a music academy. We've got 7 albums out there, and yeah, it's been good.
Actually, it's such a lovely, visual picture that got conjured up when you were saying Bruce. Yellow, okay, but Bruce Lee, okay. Why did he still name you? He was a Bruce Lee fan? Is that
He was not just a Bruce Lee fan. He grew up in Bombay, I think he was heavily into physical fitness. And so, but he got some wrong advice from some gym guy over there, and he and he ended up being not very flexible. He was always very fit all the way till the end, but he was not very flexible. And when he saw Bruce Lee, in those movies, doing those amazing stunts, he was very enamored, and he did a lot of research about him and found that it wasn't just about the fighting; it was also about a philosophy, and it was about personal discipline, and it was about several other things that Bruce Lee is known for. And he was just crazy enough to say, yeah, here's my son, I'm going to call him Bruce Lee Money. So, he used to introduce me to friends as, this is my little Chinese Brahmin. So,
and to think of the Chinese Brahmin being born in that Jayanagar nursing home, it's just so... Gunashila nursing home. What about you, Shikha? What's your personal story?
So, like I said, I was born in Pathankot because my dad was in the Air Force and we used to travel all across the country. So, I was born there, but we moved all over. So we lived in Pune, we lived in a suburb of Madras called Avadi. Then we moved back to Pune, so it was all over the place. But I came to Bangalore to study design. So before that I used to be a lawyer. Like by education I'm a lawyer. And then I came to Bangalore to study design in Srishti. And so if anyone asks me where is home, it always, strangely enough, I always say Bangalore, even though I've moved back to where I was, Pune, because I feel Bangalore is it's close to my heart because it's where I finally got to do what I wanted to do, like art. And my art grew here. Like I grew as an artist in the city, and it gave me the space. And like I used to think that it's the city where there's so much happening all the time, and there's always an event for me to attend, like as an artist. So I feel this really helped me grow as an illustrator.
Lovely. Do you remember the year when you came to actually Bangalore?
It's the shortest among everyone. So I came in 2011. So and now I don't live here anymore. So I just lived for.
Where do you live?
Pune. Oh yeah. Moved back. So I lived only for 6 years, like not 20, and entire childhood. So, but I feel if anyone asks me where would you like to live in India, the first name that comes to me is Bangalore.
Fake, whistle. Sriram.
Okay, so I was born in Bangalore too, Sita Bhatija Nursing Home, if everyone wants to know. So, yeah.
Lot of note making with nursing homes.
Yes, I know. Assiduous notes and all. And whisked off to Trivandrum immediately after because my dad was posted there. So I actually grew up as a dripping Mallu, basically. When you're in Kerala, you just speak Malayalam.
Give us the next few lines in Malayalam.
So there used to be this English squad in school. This is what I remember. This is my English medium school in Kerala. And the English squad would come to all of us and say, "Eda, the English is samsarikka." In Malayalam saying, speak in English. So that's my enduring memory of my schooling, which is very good. So, but every summer, without fail, we would land up in Bangalore. And because the train would pull in from, the Kerala Express would pull in at like some ungodly hour at 4 o'clock or something in the morning. The first memory of Bangalore were those arches in the Bangalore Cantonment railway station. So as in when this train slows down and you see those arches which still stand today, in fact. So that we knew that Bangalore was there, had arrived. And the moment you got down from the train, there was this miserably cold draft, which I think still blows through that station. I don't know from where it is. So the moment you get in, it just blows up like all parts of your body and you're like, okay, we're in Bangalore now. And then through the mist would be this hulking figure of my grandfather, who would had this bizarre pink ambassador car for some reason. And then we'd all
feminist, any chance?
What's that?
The feminist women part.
I'm sure that's, like the daughter's an example of that. So, yeah, so that was my first memory of Bangalore, and that's what continued right until my teens when I moved to Bangalore for studies. Still a little bit of a country bumpkin then. So I remember going to my college in rubber chappals and got dragged miserably by everybody. And wanted me to speak in Kannada at that time, and I mean, like, because I'd heard Kannada all my life, my mom speaks Kannada all the time, and like, because of my holidays and everything, so I managed to say something and somehow, you know, got away from the raggers, but not for very long. And yeah, then for the rest of my life, I've been here in Bangalore, and then I did IT for like, God knows how many, like a whole decade, I think. And then I really started getting bored, which was when the blogosphere opened up and people actually, I didn't even know what a blog was. I thought, and it just sounded like such a bizarre thing. And then I started writing just for the fun of it. And I remember some of my first blogs were about the sounds of Bangalore. So I've always been fascinated by accents and voices and things like that. In fact, I think I hear a lot better than I can see. I'm like blind as a bat actually without my glasses. So so that's it. So I started writing down what I heard as sounds, and that kind of translated into like local slang and things that I'd picked up for a while. Then I made a lot of audio recordings of like, you know, the different accents of Bangalore. So there's a very distinct cantonment accent where everyone speaks in a particular, what you doing there, that sort of St. Joseph sort of accent. And then there is, it's true. And
Did you check whether there are Josephites in the audience? There are? Okay. Good. We can have a Joseph rap at the end of it, I guess.
Sure, yeah. And then of course there's this very Vivipuram, Baswangudi, Malleshwaram accent. Which is, when I was coming yesterday, I told that person. So that kind of an accent as well. So there are actually Bangalore, so many Bangalores. And then you have like the diaspora coming in all the time. So there's like the entire nursing community. They all speak in one particular manner. Even the Kannada also has the same. Nimage enadru bekadre bell maadi. You know, that sort of thing. So, you know, all the so
don't give away too much at this stage. We are having it as a price, like, you know, like little
so
later.
that became videos, and now this is where it is. So I blog, I write about, I had a slang column in the Bangalore Mirror, and then I also started a gardening company suddenly in the middle like that. So it's all been going on. So yeah, I think I'm quite a true blue Bangalorean in that sense. I think I've been here more than half my life, so I suppose I could call myself that.
Yeah. I think you're more than qualified at the moment
Okay,
by the introduction, and we are going to ask you to prove it also in a bit with all the things that you've done.
Okay.
But I think we should now have some music. So Bruce, we're all looking at you.
Okay, so should I get my guitar?
Yeah, please. Yeah, I mean in no particular order, because after the deeply personal segment, I think it's now the right time to move on so that we understand each one's work. And yeah, so if you think it's going to take a few minutes, or are you?
I'm ready to go.
Great. The mark. Born ready, Bruce Lee.
Yeah. I can't use the mic because both my hands are occupied. So I think you can.
What's a moderator for?
It's going to be kind of.
Yeah, maybe here,
won't
because
really
that's what is needed.
I think you hear the guitar or hear my voice. So, you know, let's just.
Okay, give me 2 mics. Should I hold the mic? Yes.
No. It's alright. I mean, it was very
No,
quiet.
there's no 1 sec. Hang on, it's for the recording.
For the recording.
Yeah.
So use this or something. I don't know if that makes any difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
So it's
Okay, so if you can pull up the lyrics of this. So we've been writing songs about Bangalore, I guess, for many years that we've been, you know, playing music here. And there are several songs that we've written. And surprisingly enough, we just found that one of our songs, which is called Meter Mele 1.5, which is, yeah, everyone who's been in Bangalore for any length of time knows what that's all about. So I'll just put this here. Oh yeah, okay, that works.
Yeah.
This should pick up my guitar as well. Yeah, we just found that there's a new museum coming up in JP Nagar. I think it's the Brigade Museum for Experience Music, and that song is in there. I just discovered it. It's they've got an auto in there, and apparently you can walk into the auto and they play this song. So yeah, it's weird. So but this the song I'm going to sing is something we wrote a couple of years ago. It's called Bangalow Blues, and it's very specifically the experience of a Bangalorean who's been here for a very long time, and just dealing with what the city is going through, right? So I'm just gonna play it. Okay. Hopefully everyone can hear everything. Yeah. Getting warmer now, just look up at the sky. Clouds of dreams and smoke, street side.
stir fry. The old city, she hides beneath a coat of beeswax. Got to pay your number, man. Got to pay your goods and services tax. You can hear me grouse, so now you have the news. I've got a bad case of the Bangalore Blues. There's a secret handshake of the Bangalore soul. That slow, sweet humor, that cheeky hyperbole. Our temples of food, our oases of coffee. Give me that dog-eared book under a cool cabin tree. Now you hear me sigh, so you have the news. I've got a bad case of the Bangalore Blues. Get longer, but you can still pay the rent. Go get some brews in your liver, now that's money well spent. The cats around here are at the top of their game. They clog up the works, but they fuel the flame. I'm an old city boy, staying fast and loose. I got a bad case of the Bangalore Blues. I've got a bad case of Bangalore.
Tough to have such more bad cases. I think this moment calls for a story. Some reading from you, Anjum.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Well, that was already a story, I think. So
On text,
this
let's
might
say.
be a second story. But before I read out a little bit from a piece that is going to appear in my forthcoming collection, A Day in the Life, I just wanted to say that the question that I've grappled with through all of my books that have been about Bangalore is, how do you write about the city? Because there is the danger very often that sort of people's perceptions of the cities can become cliched, right? We share experiences and then quickly that becomes a kind of conventional wisdom about the city, and we're all repeating the same thing, right? So for a novelist, you have to try and sidestep that. How do you sidestep the cliches about any place, and how do you make the experience new? And I think fiction is a very good form to do that, because fiction is always about the particular. You're not writing a newspaper article. You don't have to generalize. You don't have to try and go to the essential quality of a place. You can write about something that is idiosyncratic, that is particular, and still get to some kind of truth of a place. So when I say I write about Bangalore, this is not necessarily, it's not sort of conventional wisdom, it's not received wisdom, it's the stories of different individuals. Now this latest book, A Day in the Life, has at least 6 or 7 stories that are about different kinds of people in the city. One story for me was very disturbing in a way, but also interesting to write. It's called I Am Very Angry. And it's about an old man, a widower. He's living alone in a fairly typical Bangalore colony, which is the kind of colony that I live in. And it has lots of small houses, but people are also selling out. So empty plots that are becoming apartments. That's just the landscape. He doesn't have much to do, so he reads the newspaper a lot, and he finds that again and again he's coming up against instances of random, casual, apparently everyday violence in the city. And this is not violence for any particular reason. It's not always motivated by greed or criminal compulsion. It's just neighbors attacking each other, or somebody goes to a darshani to have breakfast and he asks for more chutney, and the server doesn't give him chutney fast enough, so he just attacks him with a knife. Or somebody addresses somebody in an inappropriate way on Facebook, and that guy goes over to his house and stabs him. Or there's a procession in Adu Godi and somebody steps on someone's toes, and there's a fracas on the street and people die. So I was actually reading the newspaper over a period of just 2 or 3 months in 2016, so February to March. And I found that almost every second day there was this instance of random aggressive violence in the city, and this is not in keeping with our image of Bangalore at all, but it is there. So this story actually takes in these actual instances and is about the helplessness that a person can feel when he feels that this is my city. I have in some sense created it and I belong to it, but what is going on is really outside my grasp. So what happens then? What happens when you feel that kind of helplessness? There's another story about a young woman in she lives in somewhere near Frasertown. She lives in a place called Modi Road. Has anyone been to Modi Road? No. Okay, it's one of the most interesting streets in the city, I think. And if you walk down Modi Road, you could be in Old Delhi, you could be in the old quarter of Bhopal. It's completely Muslim. Everyone there, whether they're selling medicines or they're selling mobile phones, they're wearing skull caps and beards. And it's part of Bangalore, but in a strange way it also isn't. So I wanted to write a story set in that world, and this is a young woman whose husband is missing. She's illiterate. She can't even read the signs on the buses. And she has to negotiate the city because her husband is missing. She doesn't know where he is. So I thought, what would it be like to be wearing a burqa, not be able to read, and try to walk across Bangalore? So many of my stories are about this movement across the city, but they're from very, very different perspectives. And these are just 2 examples of the many stories that I've written. This story that I'm going to read is very atypical. It's not about any one person in any way representative of the city. It's called A Short History of Eating. It's slightly autobiographical, and it's about someone like me who moves to Bangalore and who till that point hasn't had much experience of a restaurant culture. The time I moved to Bangalore, late 90s, was when it became popular to actually started to become popular to actually eat in restaurants. And before that, I got the sense that it was still not a very common practice to be eating out. So in a way, this is a story about eating out, but it's also about hunger, the body, lifestyle. So I'm just going to read just a very little small extract from it. It starts by saying that I grew up hungry, and then I moved to Bangalore, and I'm still hungry. I was still hungry. I lived in Bangalore now and was married to a man who was also hungry. We cut out newspaper notices about new restaurants and changed buses to get to them. Food was our food of love. This is like a play on the Shakespeare line, music is the food of love. But in our case, food was our food of love. We talked about what we ate and ate everything we talked about. We dwelt on remembered meals with the tenderness of starving jailbirds and the eagerness of gluttons. We shared the memories of foodlessness that swam in our genes. His grandmother had ground wood bark into flour during the war. My grandfather had got tuberculosis from malnourishment. And now it was as if the world had ended and the only excitement left for us was eating. I had never encountered such a profusion of food. Spaghetti and meatballs with a sprig of green pepper on top. Does anyone remember the old Casa Piccola? For me, that was so exciting to go to Casa Piccola and eat spaghetti and meatballs. with green pepper on top, whole pomfrets, dosas larger than the plates they were sitting on, medieval looking pots of biryani, good for 4 eaten by 2. We were children tasting indulgence with our crab masala fry, not gourmands making sniffy mental notes. We would eat pizza because of those delicious syllables in our mouth, even if the crust was doughy, and not mind the cockroaches on the walls of the little fish place because the thalis were filled to spilling. I, small town rustic, ravenous gamine, learnt a new word every week. Maligatoni, tornadoes, bangda, shawarma, sashimi, John Dowry, chow chow bhat. At every turn in the road, we tasted a new country, surprised it had taken India so long to awake to life and liberty. This is a quote from Nehru's speech when India got free. We've awoken to life and liberty. Tex-Mex, Naga, Nawabi, colonial, Chettinad, Mediterranean. It wasn't just us. All our compatriots had fat and greedy hearts in that innocent turn of the century time, that softly spotlit restaurant time when people had to learn to make conversation as they waited for their order to arrive. I find this very interesting in restaurants, how you have to learn a restaurant etiquette. It's not just about eating, it's about restaurant behavior. Of course, some ate oil-fry kebabs with their beer in dingy bars and didn't gush in admiration. Some just slurped up the ruddy slop pretending to be sambar and rushed to office. Some ate evening pushcart snacks such as gobi Manchurian, the orange of the national flag, with equanimity rather than awe. But some were ecstatic about their eating. They were decadent before their time, wallowing in the supposed era of plenty, eating each marvelous foreign thing in the name of food, even as food was still foreign. Those legendary phantasmagorical 3 square meals a day to so many of their bony countrymen. Thank you.
Absolutely. Very lovely, so evocative and so relatable. Thank you so much, Anjum. We've had music, we've had text and images, maybe illustrations and images now.
So this is one of my most special projects illustration projects that I've done till date, and it all started, I just started my brand called Sunny Sky Starry Eyes, and since I'm a huge fan of postcards and snail mail, I used to make my own postcards and sell them at these flea markets like Kish Mandi and Sol Santi, and people would often ask me that, where are the Bangalore postcards? And I'd lived in Bangalore for almost 5 years then, and I would really feel it's high time I made something on Bangalore, because when I would travel, I would always carry sketchbooks and they would be filled with illustrations of the places I went to, but I realized that I've lived in Bangalore and there are no sketches of the city. So the 100 Days project was coming up. It's something I take part in every day. It's a project on Instagram, started by an illustrator, and it's like a celebration of making for 100 days. So you create anything, you can create a recipe every day, or you can take photographs, but something for like a period of 100 days. So it's celebrating that. So I thought that why not start with, illustrating Bangalore. So this was in 2016.
That's MTR?
Yeah, so there is Koshi's, is Vidyarthi Bhavan, there is Veena Stores, that's the 99 dosas.
Yeah. Very tea dosa, yeah.
And MTR and Shivaji Military Cafe. So I had not expected anything out of it. When I started, I started drawing things that were personal to me. So I drew the trees of Bangalore first, because that's what it really inspires me when I'm walking on the streets. And I drew like a dosa place near my house, and since it was on social media, so people started commenting that how can you call that the best dosa? You have to go to Vidyarthi Bhavan.
People can get deeply personal about
No, but that was
very
touchy
helpful topic
in a way, because after about 40 days I ran out of places, and then thanks to all the comments, I got to explore places. Like I had never been to Veena Stores. I had not even probably heard of it. Vidyarthi Bhavan is still famous.
She's not gone, it seems.
So I went after, but till then I hadn't heard of it. And so I went to Vidyarthi Bhavan and I thought, oh my god, like what have I been eating for the last 5 years? That those are not dosas, like this is dosa. And then someone commented, what about CTR? I mean, that's because I used to live in Koramangala, so it's the opposite side of
The
town.
kind of violence that Anjum spoke about, no, in that story, can happen over.
So then I tried that too, and then I was like, okay, I don't know which one is better, so let's just keep eating both. And so most of the illustrations in the project are related to food, if you see. So then people started putting out more suggestions that you should go to the airport, the HAL Museum, see that, then the Rajkumar Memorial and stuff that I wouldn't really explore if I hadn't started on this project. So I got to hear stories, like when I would sell these postcards at events, people would really be excited. They would talk about, why don't you try this, why don't you go and visit that. So in 100 days, I got to know and experience the city that I hadn't done in the last 5 years. So it was a great experience, and just making these illustrations, I thought I wouldn't stop at 100, I would go on, because again the comments are, oh, you missed this out, how could you miss out IIM Bangalore, that's like another landmark. And so I thought I'll continue it after 100 days. But
So how many day you're now in?
No, so I couldn't manage because then other projects and stuff, but the 100 days, it includes like different 100 different, every day I used to go to figure out a place to go to, eat there, capture the essence, look at the people around, take pictures and then come back and draw. So it's 100 illustrations. You can just Google 100 days of Bangalore. It's on Facebook and Instagram. These are just a few images that I've, so here there is the IISC, there is the Central Library, there is Pico's Toy and Blossoms. So it's all over, like it captures a lot of food places, historical monuments, etc.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Wow. What happens to, when for those of us who are drawing challenged, do you take classes also?
Not yet, I don't think I'm qualified yet.
Anyway, from illustrations, I think we now got to move to the sounds of Bangalore. Who better?
Okay. So the sounds of Bangalore is just something that they just sort of dawned on me. I didn't really think that I was going to like paint a soundscape of the city or anything like that. But I think one of my first realizations of the sound, of a particular sound of Bangalore was when I used to come back from college, which was located in the close to KR Market, back to my home in Malleshwaram, which was basically the longest route. And the bus number was called bus number 1. I think it was the very first bus route introduced in Bangalore back in the 40s or 50s.
Yeah, I'm seeing you're not naming the college. It's like a hint, close to KR Market and...
So my college was the Bangalore Institute of Technology. So I'm also affectionately known as the Aravamudan Institute of Technology, mainly because it was like full of people who basically came to college just to faff around. So I managed to finish my engineering over there quite without too much without ruffling too many feathers. So anyway, so the bus route number 1, because I think it was named like that, and also it basically picked up people all down from the north of the city, from the then south of the city, all the way to the north of the city. And it was a hopelessly crowded bus. So crowded that, I could just get into the bus, take off my bag and just drop it in the middle of the bus and it would be just suspended among the masses of people over there. So, yeah, exactly. So the bus number 1 was the Bombay train, basically. And after some time, just the groans of the buses as it went round the turns, there was one particular turn that the bus used to take, which used to come into the Chalukya Hotel Circle. Groan! Then okay, somewhere you could hear that, because there was no other way to figure out where your stop was. And then there was this road divider with advertisements in it, and you'd hear the sound, whoop, 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 whoop. Then you knew that you were going down that road just past RC College, and maybe in about 3 or 4 minutes your torture would end and you could actually get down in your bus stop. So that was actually my first perception that there are specific sounds to this city that, I think they're worth exploring. So that's when I actually started getting into the whole thing. And then of course I also happened to live in hustling and bustling Malleshwaram, where every street vendor in the market had his own call, and there was there are a particular set of vegetable vendors who have their own language. It's not Kannada, it's not Tamil, it's not Telugu. It's just this very strange mixture of languages that they can only they can understand. So even that really fascinated me. So after college, while I was in IT and desperately bored, because there would be like frenetic periods of work, and then there would be like periods of nothingness while you were waiting for work to come, which is when I started blogging. And then the whole painting of the soundscape, which I hadn't put a name to it then. I started writing about them basically. I wasn't really very sure how I could record like those sounds and things like that. So I actually started writing them down in words. And even the nuances of pronunciation and everything I actually write down. And that somehow, I think it was one of the first few blogs of its kind, which was particularly related to Bangalore. And I think that kind of developed quite a readership during those days. And after maybe about a decade after writing a lot in that blog, was when a bunch of friends and I got together and did this series of videos called Shit Bangaloreans Say. So Shit Bangaloreans Say actually follows a worldwide meme called Shit People Say. So the shit Ugandans say, shit Delhiites say, shit Bombayites say, I mean, from all over the world. And then I said, I was like, you know what, this is what I do, this is what I've been doing all my life. So how about, exploring it a little further. And then I had crazy friends. I still do. In fact, I think half of the cast.
You can point out to the crazy friends in the audience.
So half of the cast of Shit Bangaloreans Say actually is still here. So there's Saina over there. And there's Vibha, and
Velvet Vibha.
Yeah, Velvet Vibha is in the corner.
Velvet Vibha, please show yourself to us.
You can wave. There you go.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Sukant's here. Yeah, maybe he's not. So all of us got together and just did this very impromptu video called Shit Bangaloreans Say, where we just showcased the different things that people say in the.
Shall we see it off?
Let's see it off only. So this is Velvet Vibha starring.
मचाओ सब गा नाम है बन मिला बात केसरी बात चौचा बात सेट दोसे प्लेन दोसे मसाला दोसे रवा मसाला What are you about marriage yesterday? But you should have come before marriage only, no? For marriage registration? So after lunch time, may 2, 2:30, 3, 3:30, 4, 4:35, like that if you can come. That time I will make necessary arrangement. Okay. Love marriage? You're saying love marriage you're doing? Come tomorrow. Nare bandi nare. हमें मिले सो काम बोला क्या मार्केट है नहीं क्या मार्केट के पीछे वहाँ दुकान है नहीं अब्बास भी नहीं अब्बास मेरी दुकान है वहाँ जाको मेरे को बिरयानी लेके आपको खिलाए वहाँ शादी से पहले रोज मेरे को माउस लेके आके देते मालूम मेरे को ना संडास नहीं होता ठीक से तो वो लेके आते माउस मैं ठीक से जाती बहुत अच्छा है पाला के 15 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಮಳೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಕಡೆ ಹತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ ಡ್ರಮ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಒಂದ್ 15 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಕೊಡಕ್ಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ವಾ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ I want you to understand the deeper meaning of the song. It is not to be misunderstood as more materialism. This is speaking to the soul. This is art in its truest forms. I was explaining to Yusuf and Shibu the other day that when I see a piece of art, I grow. Are we done? We done shooting? Sushila, Aman knows ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ clean ಮಾಡಮ್ಮ. ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಕೊರ ಮಾಡ್ಲಾ ಜೋಕೆ ಫೈರ್ ಮಾಡಂತಾನೆ ಏ ಗೋಯಾ ಏನ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಲವ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಬರ್ತಿದೆ ಉದ್ಯಾನವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಸಭ್ಯವರ್ತಿಗಳನ್ನು ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ ಕ್ಲೀನ್ ಆಗಿ ಬರ್ತಿದೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀರ ಲವ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ವಾದಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಲವ್ ಅಂತೆ ಲವ್ ವಾದಿ ಮನೆ ಟುಡೇ ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಒನ್ ವೆರಿ ಓಲ್ಡ್ ರಾಗ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಬಿಲಹರಿ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದಿಸ್ The song is ये
గంగు అడమా ఆడమ్మా ఏ గంగు ఈ బైకు కలిసి కొడురంగు ಮೇಲೆ ಹತ್ತಬೇಕೆ ಇನ್ನು ಕೆಳಗೆ ಒತ್ತಬೇಕೆ ಗಂಗು ಈ ಬೈಕು ಕಲಿಸಿ ಕೊಡುರಂಗು
Name?
Ayaz
Age?
36
तकलीफ प्रॉब्लम क्या है?
वो क्या गिनेंगे खाना खाए तो खाए होता सो दिल में बेकरारी सीना में दर्द सुस्त
पेट में स्टमक प्रॉब्लम पेट में दर्द
वो थोड़ा थोड़ा गड़बड़ होता सो
worms and stools जब आप दो को जाते जानवर आते हैं क्या?
दरवाजा बंद कर हो जाता नहीं
ಬರಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಮಲ್ಲೇಶ್ವರಮ ಕನ್ನಡ ಬರಲ್ವಾ ಡಬಲ್ ಮೀಟರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಬನ್ನಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ
सर ತಿಂಡಿ ಆಯ್ತಾ सर ಕಾಫಿ
ಏನು ಮೇಡಮ್ ಕಾಫಿ ಆಯ್ತಾ ಕಾಫಿ
तू जाके पुराने पिक्चर देखना आगे सा देखना बाकी सब क्या बहुत अच्छा पिक्चर हो
ये इरफान है ये 5 नंबर का पेन है इधर गिर गया तो लेके जाओ ಕಾರ್ ಲೇಲೆ ಏನು ಏನು ಕತೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿದ್ಯಾ ಏನು ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಕತೆ ಏನು ಸರ್ ಕೊಡ್ಲಿ ಇಡ್ಲಿ ವಡೆ ಖಾರ ಬಾತ್ ಕೇಸರಿ ಬಾತ್ ಚೌಚೌ ಬಾತ್ ಬಿಸಿಬೇಳೆ ಬಾತ್ ಶಾವಿಗೆ ಬಾತ್ ಪುಲಾವ್ ನೈಸ್ ಬಾತ್ ರೈಸ್ ಬಾತ್ ಸ್ಪೈಸ್ ಬಾತ್
You ready to order, sir?
Oh, hi. What do you think of the Shanbhag Bangalow Supreme?
Little bit sweeter in there, sir.
Can you ask the chef to put a little bit of chili powder? ಏನ್ ಗುರ್ರಾಯಿಸ್ತೀಯಾ ಏನೋ ಏನ್ ಗುರ್ರಾಯಿಸಿದ್ಯಾ ಮಾಡ್ಲೇನ್
अरे क्या बोल रहे हो यार कुछ भी बहुत अच्छा आता है कन्नड़ हाँ हाँ ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಬ್ಯಾಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಸಾಯಂಕಾಲ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ अगर कुछ भी नहीं आता है तो मैं उसे बोल देता हूँ सर थोड़ा एडजस्ट माइंड सब ठीक हो जाता है Where have you been? Long time no here. What you acting the play here? Macha, too much dark. Where's the play? Whitefield. When is it? Friday. And what's today? Wednesday. Ayo, then I better leave today only and come. Then what up bloody from Vijayanagar to Whitefield and take me 2 days to come. What you want me to play in Bhanga? Cliff Richards, Jim Reeves, all this Hollywood drama now I don't even. I play off John Denver. West Virginia.
You have shown so many things, I have become full sustu. I think it's time for the audience to take over. Ask off the questions, please. You can even ask him to sing a Bilahari. Not bad, you actually pulled that off.
That was definitely the toughest.
No, but it was,
Actually, the speaking in Hindi without faltering, I think that was the toughest bit for me to do. That was about 20 takes, I think, I took to do that.
Any questions at this time? How much time do we have? No questions only. As always, the best ones will come after when we are doing some, having coffee, etc.
after the music and the food. There's something that I would propose, that if you guys got together and did a project together in 100 days, that might be much more wonderful.
Wow! Subhanallah. I don't know if you could hear what he said. He said that if all the talents get together, collaborate, and in 100 days. Who's putting the paisa, by the way? Sriram can anyway do that. You want to talk a little bit about how you also do company, paisa, like this entrepreneur. I mean, you're supposed to be taking Bengaluru to the world.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So entrepreneur is it's a very big word. So I don't think, I'm not very sure if I really follow the whole entrepreneur.
Businessman,
Yeah. Not really, actually. So the whole point was that I got really bored of IT after 10 years. So I really was looking for something else to do. And then this whole blogging thing started, and I knew there was something out there that wasn't quite, that could possibly be a little bit more fulfilling. So there was just a bunch of friends and I who gathered around a coffee table, and then we were saying, Bangalore being so famous for its green covers slowly being denuded, and us being citizens of Bangalore can't sit and moan about it. That's like the most unproductive exercise possible. So the whole idea was to kind of take the problem into our hands and green the city in whatever way we could. So the whole afforestation thing won't work in an urban setting. So what we thought is that the real estate that's available in Bangalore is actually terraces and balconies. So what we started was a responsible, organic, sustainable gardening company called My Sunny Balcony, and that specialized in using whatever urban spaces we have available, even if it's like a small little window ledge or a small bit of balcony, we'd use it to grow as many plants as possible. And the idea then developed, and then we started involving local craftspeople and even gardeners and horticulturists, and sourcing plants locally. And then we also sort of started developing the old know-how. So most Bangaloreans, one generation up, are avid gardeners, and they know a lot about the city's gardening culture, which almost has been wiped out now in this generation. Hardly anybody knows anything about it. So we started, we talked to a lot of older gardeners and got their information. For instance, my grandmother used to somehow procure horse manure from somewhere. And we had no idea where the hell do we get. So my mother and I, we drove in a car and went to the stables in Guttahalli, which still stand. And then the stable guy was sitting there. Then we said, "Kudre gobra sikata," which is horse manure. And he's like that, gestured to the rear side of one of his horses. Mother and I scooped up all the poop in a bag, and of course we had to pay the guy. And then we went and put it at home. And it lasted us for a long time, Yeah, my God, it really stinks. So yeah, stuff like that. So right from the bottom, it was a great experience. So the company is close to about 8 or 9 years now, and I think it's been a great experience. So at least I feel happy that I've done something for the depleting greenery of the city. Something's better than nothing is what I think.
Actually, you've done lots. I think the collective contribution of this, the many talents on this panel, and what it's done for Bangalore, many formats. So it's been a very interesting panel discussion, and I'm just guessing that or do we have some time? Because if there is, I just wanted to ask, and it's just kind of, I'm thinking aloud, is there a favorite Bangalorean of yours? Each one. I mean, it need not be a famous person, or it could be someone famous. Maybe someone who, you read about in the papers, you meet daily, you've met during the course of your work. It could be a band member. This is the time to say nice things. Same time to say nice things about team people. Velvet Vibha is also there, so. No, but is there someone, we talk so much about the city, we meet some people, we keep reading about some people. Who wants to go first? Favorite Bangalorean?
I think my favorite Bangalorean is Ram Guha, because he needn't live in Bangalore, but he does. And he really, I think, enriches the life of the city by living here. And he's a wonderful model because he just sits and writes most of the time. And he doesn't really, I mean, he's an institutional figure in himself, right? And most people like him would actually be in Delhi working in fact, he had got a job in Delhi School of Economics, which he turned down to come and live in Bangalore. And he's just so wonderfully inspiring in being able to like sustain that, be an individual writer and a scholar all by himself, and yet be very encouraging of younger people. His work is so illuminating. So I think the city is richer for people like that who don't need necessarily the trappings of sort of institutional support. But can still become a kind of institution in themselves. So yeah, Ram, definitely.
I think and can write so evocatively about cricket for even those of us who can't stand cricket. So I think Ram is many miles ahead in many ways. What about you, Bruce? Anyone you?
I have quite a few names actually.
This is your vote of thanks moment. and apparently we're also being watched live on the video. So.
Oh really? Wow. Okay. I mean, Ramka was one of the names that came to my head as well, but like I say, guys like Prakash Pellavadi, I'd like to say people like S.G. Vasudev, again, Gerard Machado, Konarak Reddy, I mean, musicians, painters, artists who have again chosen to make this city their home, and in whatever small way have inspired many Bangaloreans like myself to do unusual things or to try take the path less beaten or whatever you might say. I remember sitting in Prakash Bellavadi's Fiat car somewhere in the late 90s when he'd asked me to, I was still in college then, and he asked me to help him out with music for a play. And back then, he stopped at a red light. I remember this very clearly. He stopped at a red light when there was no traffic on a Sunday morning. And he said, and he turned to me and said, I'm very adamant about this. And I always remember that moment. I mean, here was a guy who, even now, I mean, that sense of discipline, that sense of caring for where you were, and just having, this Bangalore was not this crazy place where people just had to, push everybody else aside and just get where they had to go. It was about, stopping, smelling the horse manure, and
even paying for it.
Yeah, you got to pay for that shit. So yeah, people like this have inspired our journey in many ways, and I'm sure there are more like these people out there.
I'm glad you mentioned Prakash, because one of the most remarkable things, that I'm also a huge admirer of his work, but particularly what stands out for me, and I discussed this, actually spoke in public about this aspect as well, is the way he engages with you after having put out something on social media. Like even his political positions have changed, and when he says that, he will, and there are people, he has a huge following, of course. He's somebody who's with a great deal of conviction. And I've also told Prakash, it's like, how do you actually do that? You will either dismiss them, say, okay, these are trolls, or probably you will just read it but do nothing about it. But in this case, you'll say, sir, how could you say this? And he actually will go and say why he says so, why he put that out. I remember the recent time when he put Sunny Leone on his profile, on his cover photo, where you wouldn't expect him to do that. But as an artist who was standing up for the episode when she was stopped from coming to Bangalore. So many of us felt terrible and bad, but look at this guy who actually did that. And he said, I've not even, it's not, but as an artist, how could you do that to this artist? So the way he stands up for things, and actually, whether his I think on plays or on his political views, I think that's really remarkable. And the way he stood up for civic activism and taking a huge risk on himself is also something. And I'm glad you put that up as the Bangalorean that you remember. What about Sriram? Maybe you can start this side.
Names for me to single out any one person, but I'd also like to mention my music school principal, Mrs. Aruna Sundarlal, who started the Bangalore School of Music.
Wow. Yeah.
Where the Bangalore, there were so many very talented musicians in Bangalore, who were very proficient in classical music, but I think she was the one person who doggedly stood and brought up Bangalore's Western classical music scene, to the forefront of India. So I think that's one of she definitely happens to be one of my favorites.
Did she watch this video of yours?
She's no more, unfortunately.
I know,
but I don't think so. I don't think she had. I'm sure she must have. She might have had a good chuckle at it at any rate. So,
Shikha.
Again, there are too many to think of, but if I had to say one, I think it would be Arundhati Na, who runs Rangshankara, because I hadn't been exposed to theatre at all before I ventured into Rangshankara one day, and I grew to love it so much. Like I would make sure whichever the English or Hindi English or plays would be there, I would go and watch them, and I really developed this deep love for theatre, and I think that's one thing Bangalore has given me, like the love for theatre.
And true hero, remarkable woman in every sense of the word, and has given us a space that we'll continue to be proud of. As a moderator, and of course one gets to have the last word, but I also want to have the last take in this case of mentioning the Bangalorean who I remember. In fact, he is nameless in a way. I don't even remember his name. But this was a time, 2010, 2008, when I used to be on the radio. And as an RJ, we were doing something which was very close to what you now said, which was that we had taken on this dosa-loving people of Bangalore. It was in fact, I think even a year before, when none of the newspapers too had still not done. We would like to say that we were the first ones to do, as always claiming the thing. But this radio station where we were doing this, so the producer of the breakfast show that I used to do and we were kind of, which is Bangalore's best dosa? So it started something as really inane as that, but people would say, no, this is the thing, you should have, how can you say this one? These are all the well-known fellows. Have you had Gundapan dose, Nagarat Pet, all these things. So then we started, and the radio bosses figured this is actually something where you really, what is the corresponding word of eyeballs on radio? Maybe eardrums or something. So we started having these contests, and then there were promos put out. There'd be this thing, which is Bangalore's best dosa? And then you would go into all these. And after that, as RJs and my co-host Rohit, we started doing rounds of these dosa things. So after the show ends, quickly we would be taken to a dosa point like CTR or somewhere, and then somewhere in Seshadripuram, all these things happen. And one of those, when at some point of time we're really burping dosas all the time, and people would of course make the best dosas when they knew that this is coming from a radio station, though we were trying to keep ourselves anonymous, but we were walking around with a recorder as well. But now I'll tell you about really the Bangalorean who stays in my mind. This was Vidyarthi Bhavan. We went in, and I said, okay, it's not just about the dosas, but let's have the voices of those who make the dosas, and not necessarily the make as in this thing. So I actually wanted to get to the root of the hit of the matter. So we went to the dosa hitto place, as in this thing. And there was this really narrow corridor, and if anybody, have you all seen Vidyarthi Bhavan? How many of you? Show of hands. So I have to explain only to 20% of the room. So there is this place in South Bangalore, Vidyarthi Bhavan it's called, because it was really the favorite dosa haunt of Vidyarthis. And they also, I read somewhere that even Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan has had their dosas. And they would have a lota, steel lota, on which it would be written in Kannada, translated to say that I stole this lota from Vidyarthi Bhavan. So no chance you'll get away with stealing those. And they apparently started off with some 40 paise. Now this gentleman who, we went it, and there was this little corridor there, and there was a grinder which was, which had this huge thing, and the dosa hit, the batter was there. And he was nicely paunchy man, nicely bald also. And he was like, I'm sorry, I have to stand up to demonstrate. It is very graphic, very visual. So he was standing like this on that wall, that gode like this, and is, what is it, overlooking, what's it called? Overseeing. Okay, so he was this, and periodically he would just do this, and probably in a spoon just take it, and then put it back, and then get back to this position. And me trying to put that mic in between. It's almost like the television job. Now, aapko kaisa lagta hai? That moment. So I said, sir, I don't even know. Maybe his name was Ashwath. I don't know. Hesle, no, I don't know. But I just asked him, I said, sir, so what is the proportion of what you put into the dosa? Quietly, I'm thinking of taking recipe for whom? Man won't part with it, no? But then, literally, man of few words, he didn't say much. He said, this is the kusublaki, which is the old rice, this thing, this variety. And again, he would give only parts of the whole thing. He wouldn't say much. And I asked him, I said, sir, for how many years have you been? Because Vidyarthi Bhavan dosas are clearly celebrated. They have a following. They have huge emotions attached to that. And then I said, for how many years have you, since when? I didn't even say how many years. So, Yeshtindinda Nevu, because you're such a, and he said 29 years. I was really blown away, because I know for a fact, in fact, later on, Arun, I remember, or was it his father, who said that obviously the geography or the place of Vidyarthi Bhavan hasn't changed at all. And this is the man who has been consistently making that, or probably has been, his designation probably reads Dose Hetu in charge or something. Can you imagine in a time when on a typical day I would be playing songs for IT people who've had a bad day or an appraisal which has gone wrong, and companies are trying hard to give them incentives to stay back in the job for, let's say, the next few months, if not years. What's that?
Employee engagement.
Yeah, employee engagement. What engagement did this person do with Mr. Ashwath, let's say, I don't remember, to have him do the same job in that same narrow alley without any, I didn't look like he'd had you don't give drastic, raise to employees like that, but I remember coming back and telling people on the radio show, saying that really here is a person who's truly committed to the job and, whatever you like to call it, consistency or perseverance at this thing. And I really, therefore, I think on the closing note of a panel like this really, people whose voices we will never get to hear. When people who are famous otherwise, who are sought after for sound bites, who probably consistently speak on issues. But there are people like this, Dose Hetu in charge people, who make Bangalore what it is. And thank you. Salam to those people, of course, and namaskara to all of you. Thank you, all the panelists.